Today we're going to lead you through a short lesson on information literacy and social media. Before we get started, let's go over the definition to be clear about our discussion today. Information literacy is a set of abilities requiring individuals to recognize when information is needed and have the ability to locate, evaluate, and use it effectively. So why is information literacy important? The internet has given us access to unlimited amounts of information. It's not even necessary to search for it anymore because we're bombarded with it whenever we log in. Unfortunately, this has led to an explosion of false information, which is concerning because the information we consume influences decisions we make and our perceptions of the world around us. Sensationalism in the media is also an increasing problem. Even if an article isn't directly false, it may try to grab your attention by slanting facts, embellishing the truth, or trying to elicit an emotional response. Here, the headlines seem unbelievable, causing someone to read the article for clarification. Presenting information in this way manipulates the reader into dropping what they are doing and giving this article their attention. The basic skills we're going to cover today can be used to evaluate the news stories you see on social media. As you get better at spotting less than trustworthy sources, you can incorporate these into your academic research. We know Google is probably your favorite place to start research for school projects. It is definitely a helpful tool, but it's also important to have a little understanding of how it works so you can get the best information. You're not actually searching the entire internet when you use Google. Google uses automated programs called spiders, just like most search engines, to read the information contained in websites, and from there it creates an index of search terms. That index is what you're searching when you Google for answers. While Google keeps the full explanation of their search algorithm a secret, we know that PageRank, advertising, and localization influence the results you receive. PageRank is important because some users won't search beyond the first page of results, sometimes not even all the way to the bottom of the page. Think of it as the front of a newspaper. A good way to think of PageRank is as an interaction with the page. When someone clicks on a story or embeds the link from Facebook or a news site, the PageRank goes up, bringing it higher on the results page whether it's credible or not. So even if a story goes viral for being so wrong it's entertaining, the false information gets pushed to the top of your results and will be one of the first things you see when you search. So here is a Google search I've done for climate change. You can see the first 3 things in red boxes are advertisements, and there's more over on the side of the page. In the yellow box on the top right of the page, you can see Google's quick reference card with a basic definition and some images. Even though it may be accurate, it probably isn't useful for advanced research. And in the yellow box in the middle of the page, you see PageRank at work. All the news being interacted with involves Leonardo DiCaprio, so even though it's not incorrect or fake news, it isn't exactly relevant either. Then, here at the bottom in green, is the US EPA webpage, the first credible source with a possibility of usefulness for a research project. So why do they do all of this? Advertising on the web is a huge business. Even if you use an ad blocker software, companies are still collecting information on you in order to personalize the marketing you see when you're online and in general. They also sell this information to other groups. Also, programs like Google's AdSense pay websites to display Google ads, so every time you visit a site and see an ad, that site gets paid for bringing you there. This advertising money can lead to clickbait. These articles are luring you in with the explicit purpose of showing you ads. The content is 100% irrelevant. The more you click and interact with the page, the more ads you're shown, so the more money the website makes. Long story short, if a news story has you click through a 15-page slideshow, it's probably not legitimate. So here is an example of people capitalizing on these ad programs with fake news. A US Facebook user is worth about 4 times a user outside the US to marketing companies. Some teenagers who run sites for profit figured out that stories about the US election generated the highest traffic. They needed their stories to spread far and wide on Facebook, and the best way to do that was to publish sensationalist and often false content that baits readers. So more people who click through to their news site from links on Facebook, the more money they earn from ads. And while it may seem harmless, the false information spread at such an unbelievably fast rate, it actually had a significant influence on people's opinions and votes. Rule of thumb: if a website or application is free, then you are the product. Now let's take a break and see if you can remember the definition of information literacy.
We're here to give you a few tools to keep in your information literacy arsenal. The most important thing you can do is research. Always Google the article, and if no other sources seem to be posting on that story, then it's probably false. Snopes.com is a great resource for this kind of research. Avoid articles that end in .com, .co, or .lo. Also, avoid anything without author attribution. This is a quick example of how a fake news site can masquerade as a legitimate site. Notice how the .co site has a fake logo and a clearly unverified sensationalist story. Fake news sites aren't the only offenders. Some websites, like BuzzFeed and Forbes, which are otherwise legitimate, allow bloggers to contribute content without editing by the site itself. These articles often carry a disclaimer, yet they can be shared as if they are real. Remember when we all thought Drake was dead this time last year? This was because of an unverified blog. Furthermore, if a story elicits a strong emotional response, take a step back and consider whether the article was written with the express purpose of getting you fired up. If it was, then it's sensationalism, and you should definitely take it with a grain of salt. If something looks a little fishy to you, but you just aren't sure, you can always use Google's reverse image search function. All you have to do is copy-paste the image URL into Google's search bar, and it'll show you the original source for the image. That way, you don't embarrass yourself on Facebook by sharing a Venezuelan political rally and calling it an anti-Trump protest. This is a short list of websites that are guilty of spreading outright false or simply sensationalist news. I have pulled these off a list of more than 150 sites put together by Melissa Zimmers. Some ones that I have personally seen on my Facebook newsfeed are The Other 98%, Occupy Democrats, and PoliticalBlindspot.com. Which ones have you seen? If you can't remember all that, just use the crap test. Whenever you see an article on your feed, always ask yourself, is this information current? Is it reliable? Is it accurate? And what is the purpose of it? If you keep those questions in mind, then you'll be able to spot a fake in no time. We also wanted to talk quickly about satire. Some political satire, like The Onion, is fairly obvious, but sometimes satire gets shared as if it were real. A satire is a work in which human foolishness or vice is attacked through irony, derision, or wit. However, sometimes it can be hard to slice through all that irony. The most important thing to remember when you're trying to spot satire is that, like sensationalism, satire will play on your emotions. So if a story immediately makes you angry or horrified, specifically if it does so through strong language, take a deep breath and use the crap test. Here's a quick example of a satirical article. If the image didn't give it away immediately, the inflammatory language about how the 2016 election directly killed Robert Byrd, who died in 2010, should probably tip you off. Now here's a quick quiz to test your understanding. We hope you took something away from this presentation today. So take your knowledge, look at lots of different news sources so you can have a balanced perspective, and use your gut. If you think you smell a rat, it's probably a rat. Thanks for listening to our presentation.